I told you there would be a moment. Well, guess what? The moment's here. The fight is coming. Let's go!
Boxing King Media in association with boxer Mr. Adam Booth out here in Manchester with Samuel Antwi. What are you expecting from your man tonight?
Well, it's first fight with Sam, getting a gauge of how he operates, how he preps, how he's in the changing room, because after this one we want him to be back in the title mix.
What's it like for you as a trainer being last on after the main event? I can imagine for the fighter it's not great, but what's it like for you being miles away from home and being last on?
I don't know, because I've never actually been last on, so it's a new one for me.
Great. That should be interesting. I'll ask you at the end of the night. I just want to talk to you about some pressing matters in boxing at the moment. The first thing I want to speak to you about is the Simon Jordan, Eddie Hearn thing. Did you watch it, and did you feel like we got any new answers from Eddie Hearn? Because Simon Jordan was quite intent on that. He felt his questioning style would be better than most of the media out there.
I've not seen the whole thing. I've seen about 15 minutes of it. I like what I saw, but I'm going to go back and watch the rest of it. It looked like Simon had something, but I don't know whether or not he carries through with it.
Because I think that the consensus online was that the answers were the same from Eddie Hearn, but the questions were probably just more aggressively done.
Yeah, but I think also Simon Jordan has a really good way of being a bit like a dog with a bone. He has a line of questioning, and he won't let somebody off. Ironically, I only found out just recently that Simon Jordan and I went to the same school at the same time.
Did you know that? Did you know each other then, or?
So he was a year above me, but my friend told me the other day that he used to go to Purley Boys, which is where I went.
I'm assuming he probably was like head of year or something. I'm assuming he probably would have been a head of year or something like that.
He would have been head of year.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I hardly ever turned up.
All right. Yeah, I find that hard to believe actually. No way, you weren't one of them, were you?
Why do you think I'm in boxing?
You seem like an educated person, so I couldn't imagine you being like that.
Then I put on a good act.
Good skills. And other subjects, so obviously you're not watched it all, so we'll move on. The Fury Usyk saga, where do you stand with it? Because obviously you've been involved in some big negotiations before. In fact, you probably would have been involved when David A was negotiating to fight Fury. What do you make of the negotiations? Do you think it is Fury that's the problem, or do you think Usyk maybe never had the intention to fight him?
Unless you know all the detail, you can't make an assessment. I know that sometimes how things are portrayed aren't how they are. All I know is it's a shame the fight's not happening. If the fight did happen, I would pick Tyson to be the favourite. I hope it does, and it'll be a real shame if it don't.
When you guys were negotiating with Tyson for the David A fight, that press conference was pretty epic. Do you remember much issues back then?
No, but that might be because my memory's not that good.
I'll never forget that because I was brilliant that press conference. But yeah, I think the general consensus is that Tyson obviously agreed to 70-30, but Usyk took that deal because he wanted the 70-30 split to the win in the rematch. Do you think that was a reasonable request?
You know more than me. I don't know. You negotiate your value. You negotiate your commercial position, and if that's what he negotiated and what was accepted, then that's how it is. You know. But for me, I don't. The split for me is irrelevant. It's just a shame that the fight's not going to happen.
What do you think that spells for boxing? Because obviously you got all the UFC fans saying, you know, the big fights are always getting made in the UFC, and boxing's lost that in a heavyweight undisputed fight, and who knows if we will ever get that again in the near future.
We get good fights, and there's enough good fights this year, and there's some really good fights in the next couple of months. So, you know, boxing's always been shot at, but UFC is its own product. It's a completely different product to boxing, and the structure of the business is completely different as well because there's no monopoly in boxing. But you know, boxing's all right. It will always survive.
Good stuff. And Michael Conor, just quickly, big fight announced. I love the fight against Lopez. How does he beat him? What does he do different from Josh Warrington? What Josh Warrington couldn't do?
I'm not going to answer that question because that would be a tactical question. But we're excited and confident, fully aware of the risk that's posed, but equally as confident.
And Josh Kelly, it seems to have gone all quiet. What can we expect from Josh Kelly?
So we're in the throes of looking at next fight and next day. He's in the gym working. because he actually trained. He had 5 camps last year, even though he had 3 fights. So it was essential that he had a break after his fight with Troy. But he's now back, and he'll be starting sparring probably in the next couple of weeks.
It must have been a good space mentally, because obviously he looked like he needed to answer a lot of questions, and he answered them for himself and the critics the last time around.
More so like Josh has spoken about the problems that he had and what he had to overcome, and more so just proving to himself that he is what he always thought he was, and that we believe he is. And the Troy fight was just the beginning of his next chapter.
Interesting stuff. Mr. Booth, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I don't think so.
Before I let you, Harlem Eubank next week. What were you expecting from Harlem? Tough test for him?
Yes, I mean, like Harlem is on he's been on a steep learning curve and steep progression, and he's now at the point where this year there are going to be challenges and opportunities for him to prove that he can jump up levels.
And Harlem's cousin, I'll finish on him. If you was in Chris Eubank's position, would you take a fight with Conor Benn in Abu Dhabi if it's the same amount of money to fight Liam Smith in a rematch in Liverpool?
If it's the same amount of money?
Yeah, I'm assuming it might be.
Oh, you mean what's more risk and what's less gain? Well, I think that's a pretty obvious answer. You take the Conor Benn fight.
Do you think that's what he'll do?
If I was a betting man, yeah.
I think you might be right. Mr. Booth, thank you for your time.
That's fine. Cheers.
I told you there would be a moment. Well, guess what? The moment's here. The fight is coming. Let's go!